Right, leadership and governance. Why will this generation do a better job? Go One Young World. Globally, 85% of young people think it's the duty of their generation to change the world for the better. So that's you. And in Europe, nearly 2/3 think that there is a lack of competent leadership in the Eurozone.
I was surprised it was so low.
Meanwhile, 91% of ambassadors, that's you guys, or last year's lot, consider themselves to be leaders. And more than 2/3 of last year's ambassadors think it's important that time and resources are dedicated to the development of young leaders. Not everybody can attend a One Young World Summit. So it's your responsibility to make sure that other young people in your communities benefit from the brilliant opportunity that you've been given. So here's the pledge for this session. We, the One Young World Ambassadors, pledge to take responsibility for the development of other young leaders in the organizations in which we play a part. So, let's meet the councillors for this session. Delighted to welcome Mr. Alvaro Uribe Vélez, who you saw earlier, former President of Colombia. I'm trying, I am trying.
I just want you to know, I've perfected the art of silent clapping like this, so all the clapping you hear on the videos later, it's Kate, not me. Now, come on up, yes, please, and grab a seat. Thank you. The next fantastic councillor we're going to introduce, and you may know him best for his starring roles in House, in 24, in The Kumars, an incredibly well-known, successful and famous actor, but he also put that acting career on hold. And from 2009 to 2011, he was the Associate Director at the White House Public Office of Engagement. He focused enormously on something I'm sure many of you heard about, which is Don't Ask, Don't Tell, all about increasing financial aid and bringing Americans back from Iraq. So please give him a huge One Young World welcome, Kal Penn.
And an amazing man who manages to fuse mentorship, education, and beauty indeed. President and CEO of the Manchester Bidwell Centre. He's a real star. Please welcome Bill Strickland.
You heard from him briefly this morning, one of our best-loved councillors, someone who led what Hillary Clinton called the largest ever anti-terrorist movement in history, 1 million voices against the FARC, the amazing Oscar Morales.
And please welcome back former Head of Corporate Social Responsibility at the BBC and also a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Council on Diversity and Talent, Lord Michael Hastings.
And then finally, we heard her great speech the other night, and she gave us that wonderful tip about how to get away from people in an event is to always have 2 drinks. Carol Stone. So you know the routine. The councillors will now introduce the delegates. If the delegates would come up on stage, please. Give them a huge round of applause.
You're so hard to beat, hard to beat. Drive me crazy, my beautiful baby.
Go guys. It's going to be a great session. Good luck.
Over to you.
Well, Well, having just heard the British Prime Minister, I'm going to introduce you to a great young British potential Chancellor Prime Minister, and there is Greg Kyle Langley. He's going to come and talk to us of his views of how to create leadership engagement in the bank in which he works, which is Coutts, which happens to be the Queen's Bank, as well as one of the most impressive of private banks that remains in the UK. He set up a social business accelerator with One Young World, which was launched yesterday. He'll tell us a little bit about that, as well as leading within Coutts the Young Leaders Forum, and he gathers around about 200 leaders across the Coutts network worldwide and leads them and chairs them and encourages them to make sure that they make their time in the bank, but also the time in society meaningful. So, Greg, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Michael, and good afternoon, everybody. My hometown has just had the great honour of hosting fantastic Olympic Games. And the British newspapers spent the months leading up to the Games talking about how it would never live up to Beijing, how London wasn't ready, and the whole thing would be a shambles. And a week before it started, huge numbers of Londoners thought the show we put on would be like that terrible myth about British food, average, dull, and not as good as anyone else's. A swell of people resigned to the mediocre. And then began day after day of examples of what happens when individuals decide, this isn't how it has to be, I'm going to make things better. 70,000 volunteers, many of them young people, decided to ignore what they'd heard and go out to individually make it work. These people were, each on their own, tiny parts in the enormous Olympic machine. But their combined efforts, within a few days, had led a cynical city of 8 million and a nation of 60 through a transformation into an incredibly thriving place, alive with enthusiasm and passion. And this is what I'd like to get across in this short time, that individuals can change enormous organizations from the bottom up, and that leadership is entrepreneurial. If you choose to do so, anyone can stand up and make things better. I'd like all the corporate delegates here to look at what everybody else has been able to achieve on their own and just think about what you can do with the power and the network of your company behind you. So leaders don't have to be the visionaries, the occasional geniuses that amaze the world with something new. Far more often, they're just the person that gets up, opens a new door, and shows their companions the way. In a large company or community, it's very easy to assume it's somebody else's job to change things. Leaders are simply the ones that don't just complain about the way things are, they work out how to make things better and help everybody else do the same. At my firm, Coutts, as well as looking after our clients' money and investing it on their behalf, we help them to understand what it means to be wealthy, understanding their responsibilities and the opportunities these hugely influential individuals have to make a difference. After the summit in Zurich, my colleagues and I also recognized the responsibility all of us here have to put the power of our company to work. We had to open some doors to our young employees. Like many firms, we had a huge number of young people doing jobs where they can't use the full range of their skills. And we needed a way to unleash all of their energy, creativity, and talents on our business. So we established the Coutts Young Leaders Forum. This brings together anyone who wants the chance to do more, to work with other talented young people to create and deliver projects that have a positive impact on our organization and the communities we work within right across the globe. And within days, we had the support of the board. Within weeks, another 20 young people running projects with us. And within 6 months, 200 members around the world. So you don't have to be sitting in a huge leather chair behind an oak desk to be a leader within your organization. And in fact, we're the admin staff for our young colleagues. We make it as easy as possible for them to make their ideas reality and bring their skills to life. And we're just the start of it. The message of this session is not just to lead yourself, but to build the means for others to join you. So next week, go back home and work out how you can bring the passion and the action of this group of people to your companies and your communities. But don't try to take it all on yourself. Put the tools in place so that everyone around you who wants to make a difference can see what they need to do. Make it easy for people. Think of leadership as setting up a business. You have to understand what your target audience need and then give it to them in a simple, exciting way that makes a real difference. And don't be afraid of no one listening, because people don't say no to good ideas. And that's what made it so easy to get the support and take-up within our company. The management liked fresh ideas and releasing untapped energy, and our colleagues wanted to show what they're really capable of. But it's easy to feel you're not important enough to speak up, and it's easy to think you're too junior to make a difference. It's easy to get stuck within a frame of reference and hard to step back from your own point of view. But everyone in this room is here because of their fantastic potential. And if you've been thinking after all of these sessions that this doesn't really feel like the kind of thing I can do, you need to make sure you take that step back, recognize what you're really capable of, and go and help other people do the same. Now, one way we're helping our young staff do this at Coots is to develop a two-way mentoring scheme. So in exchange for help and career advice from a senior employee, each person taking part in this will also mentor a young person from the local community who hasn't had the same opportunities as them. Now, by helping the community around them, our employees learn more about themselves. We think it's important to help them recognize what a huge difference they can make to others, however they see themselves right now. So whether you think you're just a cog in a company or just another young person in a community, take the inspiration from this incredible group of people in this room back to wherever you see problems and realize how much you can do just by starting something. You'll be amazed by how many people want to make things better by helping you. Thank you.
My friends, I believe that leadership is not a question of birth. It is a question of dedication. Here we have a great example, Farah Iqbal. Imagine 21 years old, almost an adolescent. But you cannot know how important she is for the world and for her country. Her leadership is because the integration of her feelings with the needs of her country. And she works for helping distressed women, to provide shelter and home to the victims of domestic violence. I am very happy. It is a great honor to introduce this young leader, Farah Iqbal.
Good afternoon, one young world. So what is a good leader? Good leaders think in broader perspectives and cultivate innovative ideas into a desired common outcome with the efforts of their team. They're somewhat like good doctors, right? They must diagnose the patient accurately to ensure the effectiveness of the prescribed drug and also be able to identify the problem to come up with effective solutions. So the larger fundamental question now is, what is leadership? The term tends to get thrown around a lot, doesn't it? But every society has its own answer. My society believes it has the perfect answer, and that is not to be a girl. What do leaders do which make them leaders? Don't be a girl. What are the qualities of a good leader? Don't be a woman. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes these people don't realize that being the girl is just the answer. It's much like what the famous... It's much like what the famous writer Eve Ensler once said, we must learn to embrace the girl within us in order to succeed in life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main driving force of not only my speech today, but my life as a whole. I come from Bangladesh, a nation that it still has a very restrictive society in many aspects concerning women and their participation in society. Leadership roles are almost always slightly out of the reach for women. However, I still believe that women should get leadership roles based on merit rather than gender. Because leadership is not being about a man or a woman, but rather it's about one's sense of responsibility, it's about developing people, the public sphere, and working to make your nation strong, independent, and free from aid. With this, I begin my story, how the girl within me inspired me to work for Bangladesh, where leadership is indeed present, but whether or not it is effective, influential, and exercised by suitable authorities remains open to debate. Let me start with a brief introduction about Bangladesh. It is a home to 165 million people, possibly the most densely populated country in the world, with a very bureaucratic government system. It has a huge income disparity, leaving more than 49% of the country's people to try to survive below the poverty threshold. Being a girl from the underdeveloped nation and trying to give back to society is harder given the above circumstances. Yet an amazing social worker, who also takes the form as my mother, decided she would like to open a home for the women who were trafficked cross borders, sold into prostitution, raped, divorced, or have been dismissed from their parents' house on the grounds of dishonoring their family name. I felt strongly for the cause, and I realized that we had little money to contribute to this shelter home. I created pamphlets and leaflets for different corporate houses explaining what the lives of these women are like and how we intend to reintroduce them back into society by providing in-house training that helps them get back to a healthy, normal life. Let me tell you, going from door to door and persuading people to donate for these women was not an easy job. I keep getting the question, how would that benefit my company in return? We finally managed to convince a large conglomerate to provide us with their products and help us in kind rather than cash, so they don't feel like we have a profit motive. For years, all the energy I had went to that shelter home, whether it was being a companion for the distressed, women helping in the kitchen, or just simply talking and trying to help them realize that there is no fault in being a girl. A little bird once told us that it is our duty to teach women to embrace the girl within them. And with that knowledge and vigor, the shelter home now has become a project under an NGO, giving it a little bit more standing. This served to be a reminder to me that although it's not much, it has support of some sort only because of dedication. Emotion is what distinguishes one leader from another. I believe it's the emotion in me that made me see what the youth in Bangladesh are heading towards. Bangladesh Youth Leadership Center, or more commonly known as BYLC, is dedicated to grooming future leaders. Through intense group work and community service, it brings together the youth of 3 different streams of education. They're taught to be proactive citizens and engage with people of different variety to understand their needs, ideas, and opinions better. I'm an active member of this organization, and I'm very involved in this program and have been able to identify some key problems. In Bangladesh, wealth and power go hand in hand to the point that it has become an open secret for the past 10 years or so, a lot of our potential future leaders are dangerously caught in the drug scene. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the girl in me that inspires me to fight the drug abuse among the budding leaders of Bangladesh. I'd like to end my story with the story of a Rohingya girl who was trafficked and sold into Bangladesh. Rohingya are Burmese refugees who are a very controversial group of people, as the Bangladesh government is being pressured by Western nations to open up their borders to them. She was deceived from home, taken across the waters to Bangladesh, and sold into prostitution. She was rescued by a journalist and was brought to us. We taught her to sew, to cook, to be a strong person, to be a good human being, and taught her to be proud to be a girl. This girl, a victim of pimps, rapists, is now happily married and working as one of the most popular seamstresses in Bangladesh. This was possible because leadership's finest attribute transcended age, class, social distinction, and gender. Leadership is about responsibility and influence, nothing more and nothing less. However, the right sort of leadership is not always available. Given the right nurturing, every man, woman, girl, child of my nation of 165 million is a leader in his or her own right. Thank you.
So I'm going to introduce Alex Labouche, who I first met yesterday when he tweeted at me. And I tweeted you back, man. Alex was impressive to me for a number of reasons. He's got a whole list of things on his resume that I thought were pretty awesome. He was awarded one of Google's Young Minds of the Year. He is the European director of an organization called Schoolbag that provides school supplies to students in places like Haiti. And not just any school supplies, but they structured it so that they were working on sustainable and environmentally friendly school supplies that they were giving out, obviously in a place like Haiti. That's of no small significance. And perhaps most relevant to, I think, a lot of us in the room, he organized about 9,000 young people in France to hold government leaders accountable for youth unemployment as part of a global day of action. Beyond that, though, I think what was most impressive was having the chance to sit down with him for about a half an hour before we came out here and hear his philosophy about why young people should get involved in politics, leadership, and governance, and exactly why that's so important. So give it up for Alex Labouche.
Well, thank you, Carl, for this very kind introduction. My dear friends, I want to make you aware today of a crisis we have around the world, a crisis of youth involvement in politics. Young people are trapped in a type of poverty which many have not noticed. I'm not talking about the financial poverty, but the poverty of aspiration and the poverty of hope in politics. One reason could be they think that the change they want couldn't be brought on by politics, and something which most young people don't easily relate to. I was 15 years old when my interest started for politics. I was inspired by a man called Nicolas Sarkozy, and I joined the party when he became president. Thank you. Thank you for him. I was elected 2 years ago as national councillor for the youth movement of my party, and today I can tell you that I still believe as strongly in positive politics impact can have. I saw how politicians can change an area for the better, socially and economically, and how standing up for individuals to faceless organizations makes a real difference to quality of life of the people. And today I can tell you that a 20-year-old councillor is just as capable of representing the society's need of like a 50-year-old one. If young people are given more information about politics, they will question more and get involved in changing it. I ask you today to get involved in politics. Politics needs young people. Young people need to talk about politics, and politicians need to listen. I was part of Sarkozy's campaign during this year's election. 6 years of personal political commitment and some crazy months of campaigning. And what was the result? We have lost. On the evening of the 6th of May, Election Day, I don't need to tell you how I felt. All my energy and morale was gone. I wanted to stop all my involvement. But no, I didn't. I refused. Because even if I felt defeated, it's not the end of the fight. We need to propose new ideas to move forward. And since that moment, I pledged to pursue my goals and dreams, to stand up for what I believe in despite my fears. And I can say that this is probably the first months of my life I've lived without a single regret. And this is my second advice. Always believe in yourself, believe in your project, and never give up. I was talking with the Matt I met during the campaign this year, and our conversation moved toward the idea of putting one foot in front of another, step by step to reach your goal, even when we have no idea where the path is leading. And each obstacle that you overcome gets you one step closer to your goal. And instead of thinking to the final achievement of your objective, seek small ways to appreciate each little victory. I understood that individuals can and do make a major difference across the world through determination. You know, the greatest danger that threatens the world today is weariness. While looking back over the last 20 years, the world had the right to be optimistic. The Berlin Wall fell, and 80 million of Europeans has been set free. Nelson Mandela was freed. South Africa put an end to apartheid. The Oslo process in the Middle East was a great hope. We have been so close to peace, and we could legitimately say, it's going to get better, the world progresses, and you can be optimistic. Today we have optimism, but not the same optimism as the older generation, because we have a greater understanding of the issue we face. In the beginning of the 21st century, there was September 11, barbarism at its most vile, the rise of terrorism, financial crisis, social crisis, economic crisis, global warming, and all around the world the impression that the human rights in the 21st century was receding rather than advancing. So what can we do about this? What is our role as young leaders? The good news is that we have the power in this room to solve this tomorrow. We will create an environment where everybody matters. And we must take risks, because it's a risk, to challenge those who do not comply and those which don't implement ideas that are universal. Because if we don't take action, who will? Who will? Then I ask you to move to a bigger challenge. Make politicians accountable for their action, to admit to the young where they went wrong and embrace young people's ideas and support them. We must be a part of the process of shaping the policies. Because today, as young people, we are facing this problem, the world we have versus the world we want. And as members of the One Young World family, we have to create the world we want to see, the world we want to live in. And many of the issues we face in this world will dissipate because we will create institutions and organizations that truly care about the impact they make on the life of the people who work with them. We all know that this change is possible. And through history, we can see that change in politics and society have been brought by young people. Nelson Mandela was 26 when he started his involvement. The lady, Aung San Suu Kyi, she was 22. Martin Luther King, 24. Gandhi, 24. Lincoln, 23. President Lula for Brazilian, 26. And President Obama, 24. I am 22, and here we all are under 30. So are you ready for change? Okay. You were too long, let's do it again. Are you ready to change the world? So don't let others tell you what you can or cannot do. Take concrete action, believe in yourself, and never give up. Thank you.
Well, now is my turn to introduce a very beautiful lady who happens to be one of you, a millennial. Because only a millennial could have 5 positions before graduation. We didn't have that in our generation. So Angela, before graduation, she worked in cabinet positions in the UK Youth Parliament, Local Youth Parliament, International Youth Council, Nottingham City and Houseland Councils, creating and developing youth policy for sustainability. What a great graduation. And then she graduated in politics in Nottingham University. Today she works at Accenture as a sustainability strategy consultant to change consumer behavior to promote sustainable lifestyles, very necessary in these times. And lastly, she's very passionate about youth, as you could figure out, and she's in the board of trustees for 5 years of the UK Youth, the largest UK youth charity. And just to mention that after all of this, she still wants to work more, and she wants to be the VP at Chanel of sustainability, and she, after that, when she finishes that, because she will get it, she will become the cabinet minister for the children of the UK. Let's welcome Angela Janji.
Good afternoon, One Young World. I'd like to take this opportunity to reflect upon the messages, challenges, and calls to action we've been so privileged to participate in over the last 3 days. I'd like to highlight the reasons why, even after hearing from councillors such as President Clinton, Bob Geldof and Jamie Oliver, while we only need to look inwards at ourselves to find the greatest of inspirations. Today we're faced by the greatest of opportunities. How the worse and the more complex world issues become, the bigger the window of opportunity and call for action directed towards our generation is. How surprisingly well-equipped we seem to be, what with the rise of social entrepreneurship, our innovation and our passion for sustainable change. We, as youth leaders, are set to take the stage and scale positive actions. But that is not all. I would go as far as to say we have the greatest opportunity to mobilize, catalyze, and drive change in history. Generation Y, millennials, fellow youth leaders, we are the generation bred for leadership. We are the first generation with the unique ability to create time, where on average we are able to create 5 to 7 hours per working day through juggling our priorities and our ease with social media. This equates to around 40 hours per week, a full working week in the Western world. This allows us to live dual lives, one at our desk and one at night or through social media, supporting the initiatives, NGOs and charities that we passionately work for. We are digital natives with the ability to switch between media 27 times per hour. We can build or damage brand reputations in a heartbeat. I think we only need to look at McDonald's after this conference to clarify that, as well as dictate the outcomes of elections. We are able to adapt quicker and better to technology than anyone before us. Today, only 40 CEOs from the Fortune 500 companies have Twitter accounts. That will not be the case for us. Even my firm Accenture has started to understand the power of millennials. It's our expertise that is being used to help senior executives to connect in business today, to reach a whole range of stakeholders, not just our clients, but our partners, NGOs, and organizations such as the World Economic Forum, and those needing to do good business. This is the way to communicate. This is the way to connect. And this is the way to do business. And we are the ones who know this. Our presence at One Young World only confirms our youthful vision to lead and develop skills to become confident and charismatic leaders who don't just drive results, but drive change. Our biographies will tell a different story to the CEOs of today because we are ready. We have started earlier, younger, and with greater urgency. We have grown up understanding the power of large-scale collective action better and more urgently than those before us. This starts at One Young World, but means we shall not be strangers at Davos or G20. We are already taking action today to connect the two worlds of career and duty. For example, the charity I support, UK Youth, helps over 750,000 young people in the UK, aiming to raise aspirations and support non-formal learning. It helps young people step away from standard school qualifications and instead empowers young people to directly raise their quality of life through amazing skills. UK Youth founded the Youth Achievement Awards, which reward practical skills development rather than standard academic success. We target those most disengaged or excluded from society, those who perhaps haven't found their way through formal education, and more widely, the youth of Britain. Our network and reach enables us to personally support young people in the skills that make them more rounded, high-achieving adults who are ready to drive our society into a better future. We strive to mobilize our huge network for mentorship, whether it's peer-to-peer or generation-to-generation, and with partners like Accenture, Microsoft or O2, UK Youth is at the cutting edge of youth development, harnessing technology to motivate and inspire the next generation of leaders. UK Youth is the reason why I'm here today, and it defines a huge part of my personality, as well as having played a crucial role in the opportunities and development I have received. It is why in my professional career, I still passionately champion its cause. My non-formal guidance came from learning how to represent and advocate my peers at 16, learning how to hold myself in front of leading politicians at 17, learning how to articulate and get my voice heard in a fashion that championed my charity and the youth of Britain for life. We all know we have a duty to improve the world, and we all know we are fundamentally ethical. We are able to leverage our skills and belief to iron out the dents the current world leaders have left in social responsibility, youth development, and mobilizing society to help itself. We are our strongest ambassadors. We should be concentrating our skills, effort, and energy in helping, supporting, and developing young people, aiming to create well-rounded, ethical, and more socially conscious high performers that are ready to lead us into a better world, a better society, and a better future. All world leaders inherit a moment in history. The one we've inherited leaves no time for debate, just time for action. So I call to action the next generation of CEOs and world leaders. Start leading with youth. Start leading through us. Generation Y, start leading the way. Thank you.
I have the delight and very special honor of introducing Vanessa Picker, who I met a few minutes ago, and I liked a lot that came out of her mouth. She's somebody you want to spend some time with because, in my view, she represents exactly the kind of leader that the world needs, one who did not want to become a leader. Gandhi said, to lead the people, walk behind them. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And this woman has been able to respond to situations that were thrust on her that she didn't choose, including completing officers' candidate school, creating an incredible organization that brings youth together from around the globe, creating an entrepreneurial organization, and may be defining the way that we think about sports for future generations and play it forward. When I asked her the question as to why you do what you do, she gave me really the best possible answer, because it's the right thing to do. I think that values and persistence and determination and personal honesty are the value propositions that this world needs to see a lot more of very quickly. I think we've got a real winner in this woman named Vanessa Picker, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce her at this time.
In my part of the world, Australia, we are very passionate about sport, especially cricket. Cricket is a game where you only need a bat, a ball, and the ability to run fast. In cricket and many other sports, whether you're rich or poor, you can become a great player, a team member, and a leader. Delegates, ambassadors, councillors, and guests. The 183 countries represented here today all have a need for authentic, inspiring, responsible leadership. All have issues, political, economic, and social. It is the youth of the world, you and I, who are being faced with finding a way to resolve these issues. So today, I challenge us all to see ourselves as leaders right now. I'm Vanessa Picker, a 21-year-old social entrepreneur from Australia. Australia is a young country, rich in resources, rich in leaders from all fields of endeavour, but we still have our challenges. The challenges that I'm most passionate about are those that relate to our youth. For example, Aboriginal children aged 10 to 17 are still 24 times more likely to be in prison than non-Indigenous children. Of all the homeless people within Australia, almost half are under the age of 18. As a leader, what can I do? I take as my theme today the wisdom of Frances Hesselbein, who was born here in Pennsylvania. Amongst other leadership roles, she was CEO of Girl Scouts USA. Ms. Hesselbein recently emphasised that everybody has the capacity to be a leader, but sometimes they just need some doors to be open for them. In Australia, I'm a co-founder of a project called Play Forward, which I'm now rolling out together with my colleague Leo Costanzo. We've discovered that sports are a powerful vehicle for personal and leadership development. So we run sports-based community programs that build confidence and self-esteem amongst young Australians aged 8 to 13. We believe, as Ms. Hesselbein noted, that leadership can be developed. So we're seeking out disengaged, marginalised children because we know they're 46% less likely to start antisocial behaviour once they become involved in programs that promote cooperation, teamwork, and leadership. To engage these children and to develop them as role models and community leaders is our vision and also our challenge. Our initiative has already been recognised. We've been named as 2012 Resolution Fellows, joining a community of more than 20 young leaders who are each showing a commitment to social change and responsible leadership. So how exactly did Play Forward start? And what is it that I've learnt along the way? Well, my experiences as an officer cadet in the Royal Australian Air Force and later with various youth-run organisations served as my motivation to initiate a project of my own. Over the last 15 years, I've also seen how sport can be a catalyst for personal development. So earlier this year, I had an idea and I knew that I had two options. Option number one, I could wait for perfection. I could spend months planning and refining a project before actually doing anything. Or option number two, I could jump in, make a start, and be ready to adapt along the way. So I chose option two. With nothing more than an idea and my passion, I travelled to Canada earlier this year, where I presented Play Forward in a social venture challenge. We now have funding, ongoing mentoring, and support. We've refined the model, and it's being rolled out in Australia. Our vision for the future, though, is global, because we know that these issues are global. The main lesson that I've learnt along the way is that we can actually start causing change right now. Because if you're passionate enough about your vision, then a lack of funding, resources, or team members can easily be overcome. So through my studies in entrepreneurship and my personal leadership experiences, I've discovered that leaders are not born with a barcode saying leader. Leaders don't have to wait for an invitation to become a leader. We as young leaders can start acting right now to open doors for others. There are 3 key actions that each of us can take beyond this summit to make that happen. Firstly, let's share the inspirational stories that we've seen and heard at this summit. Next, let's stay connected, foster the friendships that have been born here in Pittsburgh, and continue the collaboration after. Finally, and most importantly, make a start. Whether it's a small-scale initiative, a campaign, or a large-scale organisation, think about what it is that makes you get up every morning and bring positive go forward to everything that you touch. You don't need to be in technology to cause change. You don't need to build the next Microsoft or Facebook. You just need to know who you are and what you're actually passionate about. And then, go for it. Thank you.
Well, our last speaker in this session, or this plenary, is a man who is a senior at the Maryland University studying government and politics. I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with him because he's all about redefining the way we have conversations, the way we bring people together and discuss the issues that concern us all, the sort of issues we're discussing here at this summit, and more importantly, how we can find the solutions. Before Maryland, he was at the Rockland College, where he was president of the student body, and there he formed, which I think was very, very good indeed, the Rockland Round Table. And what he does is he brings together people from all over the community, from other schools, from other colleges, to talk about the very issues that we should be talking about, some of which we've spoken about already: health, obesity, of course, illiteracy, and how we can really sort of bring together thoughts about sexual education. So having had my chat with him and conversation, what really impressed me was not only was he willing to tell me about himself, he was very interested in what I was doing and asked me one or two questions about other people. He's interested in other people. An interest in people is a good way to start a conversation. I think we're going to hear good things from Marvin Matthew.
Get my technology ready. Hi, thank you for the introduction. I'm Marvin Matthew, a 21-year-old senior at the University of Maryland and mentor at the Clinton Global Initiative University. In 2010, I met a group of Haitian exchange students studying at my university. There, they shared their experiences with me on the earthquake, and it changed my life. Earlier that year, Haiti suffered a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, displacing 1.5 million people from their homes and devastating over 300,000 folks. Additionally, the Haitian populace gained a water crisis. Globally, more than 3.5 million people die each year from waterborne diseases. About 80% of those who die are children. Water is life. Between my privilege and their struggle, I had to act. So I began by speaking publicly about the Haitian water struggle and collecting funds for water filtration systems to Haiti. Soon after, hundreds of people listened to my message, and young people started to get involved. I amplified my impact through partnership with community organizations, students, and individuals who realized that we could have an impact on the Haitian populace. And at the end of the day, it was understood that one life was well worth it. All it took was reaching out, collaborating, and speaking to people. Those people, they could have said no, but because we provided an organized solution to an overwhelming problem in a very simple way, people understood how we were doing it, what they could do to help, and how they can get involved. As for building leaders, that is exactly what the Water Justice Alliance did. From it started a nonprofit called Just Save One, whose founder and former Water Justice Alliance member is a One Young World delegate amongst us today. My vision is a world where we empower people to discover the leader within them. Instead of grooming people to be leaders far off into the future, why not groom them to be leaders right now and use their leadership right now? We must push the world to think about leadership differently while involving young people in decision-making to yield greater solutions. It is of the utmost importance that while we do this, we utilize technology. Amazing technology surrounds us, and it is through this technology that we will realize our abilities and the impact that we can have both locally and in the whole world. Look around you. Find people that share your values here at One Young World. Connect, collaborate, and inspire. Forums like this are built for it. 2 years ago, I had my first experience at the Clinton Global Initiative University. There, I met a few leaders, and we created Re-Envision Your Future, a group dedicated to inspiring and empowering others by utilizing social media and results-based leadership. Just a few weeks ago, our group got together and launched Re-Envision Lago Nav, which is another project in Haiti, working to bring Haitian youth high access to internet and clean water. This gives them access to microfinance opportunities and allows them to be self-sustainable, thriving, and successful. So let's shift the conversation and change it. The world is waiting for leadership. So why build leaders for tomorrow when you can have them today? Redefine leadership in your own community through conversation, networking, and personal involvement. And as we create leaders, let's look at leadership differently and redefine our solutions, utilizing technology to bring efficient solutions to the problems of the 21st century, problems that have long haunted us. I've learned from President Clinton at CGI that we need new solutions to overcome these old problems. Young people, we are innovative, we are creative, and we are the solution. We must be catalysts for the people around us and for innovation all around us. So it's time to take our ideas and turn them into the world's reality. For that reason, last year, I organized the Rockland Roundtable Initiative. We brought students to the same table as politicians, business leaders, and teachers. We did this to recognize, discuss, and create solutions to the problems facing our community, while also giving youth a seat at the table and building their abilities and confidence. In our last project, working on illiteracy, we had a book drive, which raised over 4,000 books in just under 2 months. We donated those to our partners in New York, nonprofits working already to build literacy in the state. Start a roundtable of your own. Bring people to a table that wouldn't generally be there. President Obama recognized our initiative, and it's displayed on the White House blog and Opportunity Nation. Bring people there that wouldn't be there and create a new dialogue. Another aspect of leadership is inspiring those around us, the people that we don't always recognize are watching, young people. I realized the importance of my actions when last year I received a card from a 15-year-old friend of mine. The card read, "I'm so proud of you and what you've accomplished. When I go to college, I'm gonna do it too." Since then, I've watched what he's done. He's created tremendous impacts in his community through his networks to his friends. So be a mentor, inspire younger people, be an enabler for our youth. It's time. Let's shift the conversation. Leadership needs to be redefined because we've lived too long in a place where leadership is just something far off or it's a testament of our age. 2 days ago, Muhammad Yunus said to us, "Can you imagine what this world will look like 25 years from now?" Well, Professor Yunus, we're not just imagining, we are creating the future, and we're creating it now. We must empower young leaders today. Thank you.
Okay, so now's the moment when we ask the councillors to go to the floor, okay? So, I'm going to tell you where I need you to go, Mr. President and everybody. Oscar and Carol, you're very experienced councillors, so I'm going to ask you to take the handheld mics and to go to the back corners like Bob and the others did the other day. And then Bill and Cal, if you would go to those two mics, there's one towards the front, one towards the back. Cal, if you take the front one there. And Michael, if you'll take the back one, and Mr. President, if you'll take this front one here.
Now, a couple of quick things. We can probably do 4 questions from each mic. That's around 24 questions. If you've already asked a question before, please give your place to somebody who hasn't, and we can maybe even get 1 or 2 more in if we keep them short. So don't make it an essay, make it a tweet.
You stand here, Mr. President, and you.
Carl, let's start with you.
All right, I've got Francisco here from Ecuador, and he's got a question.
Yeah. Hello, I have a question for President Uribe. I know there was a lot of questions about Venezuela, but I'm from Ecuador, and we, as you know, face some kind of the same problems. And I actually studied politics because I realized that without politics, nothing changes. If we don't change politics, nothing will. But my question for you is, what can we do as civil society leaders to influence our political leadership where there's fear and despotism, avoiding dialogue and undermining people's work, like there's in Ecuador, calling teachers mediocres and putting people to jail if they disagree with what they do?
Great question. What we will do, President Uribe, when you come back up on stage, if you could maybe address that question, that would be great. At the end of the session. Thank you.
We have Mika from Germany.
Hi, I just have a small comment from this morning. Our councillor, Mr. Michael Hastings, just mentioned that Armenia is a country that does not exist anymore, but I just want to correct this misunderstanding, that Armenia is a country already known in United Nations with a flag, and I, as a One Young World leader, I will make sure that the voice of One Young World will go to Armenia, and I will put together all the activists that are already inspired and do activities in human rights, and make sure that next year they will be present here with their projects for all these areas that you already have in passion.
Great, excellent. Now I can't see where, over there, sorry, Carol in the corner.
I have Erin from New York.
Hi, you guys were all incredible.
Erin is actually the #1 tweeter from One Young World this year so far, so you've got to beat her.
So I have something that I'm really passionate about, which is letting leadership find you and embracing this incredible network, this incredible forum to become inspired and fall into the roles. Because I think far too often we go in and try to create something or impose it. And one of the most effective forms of leadership, of impact, of governance that I've found, thanks in part to being here for the past 3 years, is collaborative leadership and seizing those opportunities when they present themselves.
Excellent. Lord Hastings.
I have Tatos from South Africa.
Hello, everyone. In South Africa, we have a subject called life orientation. I don't know if any other countries do that, but this subject is basically an exam entrance subject, and it's completely irrelevant to life, and it doesn't help us in life in any way. And I just wanted to ask any of the South African delegates if they would like to help me in kind of reforming the life skills curriculum to kind of incorporate these leadership things that we learn about here, because this is the relevant stuff to life and not what we learn in life skills. So if anyone can help me do that, please give me a shout. Thank you.
Oscar.
Hello, my name's Noel from Ireland. My question to the panel is, do you think there should be a universal standard for political ethics like there is in law or finance?
Great question. President Ruby.
Steve from Ethiopia. From Indonesia, apparently, sorry.
Hello, One Young World. I have 4 words for delegate speakers there. I accept your challenge. I lead initiative for all of Indonesian students in the UK. We have a convention about sustainable development. I urge all of One Young World ambassadors to join our initiatives. 3 weeks in London. Definitely come down and join this movement. What our councillors said about mass movement. This is what we are creating. One Young World, enough is enough. I'm enough to see how unsustainable our government is. Enough is enough. We, as One Young World ambassadors, this is the time for us to make this movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl.
Got Kevin from Bolivia here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin. It's such a pleasure being surrounded for such great guys, such inspirational speakers, such great counselors. You know, something that I say always is better leaders for better communities. I know that everybody in this place is making a positive impact on their communities. So I strongly believe that so far than we thought, this will be a better place. Because everybody is making an impact on their communities. It's a single impact. Seems like pretty little in comparison to everything. But that's the impact of one. That's the power of youth, and that's the power of One Young World.
Carol.
Harvey from New York.
Sorry, do you want to go again?
No, this is my first time.
No, I meant Carol, could you say your name again? We missed it.
This is Harvey from New York.
Thanks, David, I appreciate it. I think given our 21st century problems, our generation is hungry to be tri-sector athletes, those who are able to engage and collaborate across business, government, and nonprofit. I think One Young World gets it. I think we need to build a movement here. So join me next year in Harvard as we hold our first class on tri-sector leadership, and it'd be great to have David and Kate there as well. Thank you so much.
I replied to your tweet on it. Bill.
We have Supi from India who's got some very important clarifications to offer on leadership.
Yep. The guy who shot Malala is definitely a great leader to the Taliban community. Not to us, but to the Taliban community. So it's really important to hold on to a thought while we're all said to be great leaders. A simple thought that irrespective of having any number of great qualities, it's really important to know and understand that a leader can only be a good leader when he can be compassionate with the fellow human beings and be a good human being. Thank you.
Great comment. Oscar.
No questions in this side. Maybe I can give a shot to...
Yeah, if you go and get 4 or 3 people from there. So.
Questions. Anyone has a question? Yeah.
Question or comment, 3 people get with Oscar because he's got a mic. Lord Hastings.
I have Brunei here from Australia.
So go again, they're not getting the mics on quite quick enough.
My name's Brunei and I come from Australia. I'm an Aboriginal girl. I want to start by saying how honoured I am to be here. A point Vanessa made, which is true, my people are expected to end up in jail, not expected to be here at One Young World. So it's very emotional for me to actually be here today.
Yeah.
So thank you. A hard thing that we experience in our communities is racism. Aboriginal people think, just like other Indigenous communities, that they're not good enough. One thing that we need to do, it's up to us to help not just lead, but lead our Indigenous communities, lead them to live a better and brighter life. After all, the future is in our hands.
Excellent. Oscar, over to you now.
Yes. Hello. I'm Layal from Jordan and I lived in Qatar. I want to ask the only panelist who's a female over here about what advice can she give to Middle Eastern women who are still having issues with equality at workplace and are unable to take part in the governments of a country or take leadership roles. And I just want to tell the Middle Eastern people here that 2 women already did it, Queen Rania of Jordan and Sheikh Hamoza of Qatar. And you can totally do it, but I would like to know what the panelists would like to say about that.
Carol, if you'll answer that when you're back up on stage, that'd be great. President Uribe.
Dan Ryan from Australia.
Thank you, President. My question is about the relevance of the United Nations to the themes that we've been discussing here. I'm the 2012 United Nations Youth Representative for Australia. I delivered a speech to the General Assembly a couple of weeks ago in New York on the power and role of social media in leadership. And I thought it would be interesting to hear from the panelists their thoughts on the role of the UN. Also, if you're interested in representing the youth of your country at the General Assembly, come get a card off me and I can talk about how it can work for your country.
Excellent. I'm sure our speaker after lunch, Kofi Annan, might have a thought on that as well. Carl.
This is Ida from Senegal.
Hi, hello. So in March 2012, our 3rd president was democratically elected in Senegal. So this is a success story for many African countries because in many African countries we fail to have democratic election. But this happened because young leaders like you and me spent 6 months protesting on the street and they were killed by doing that. So my question now is for all the Africans here, all the counselors and all the people interested in politics in Africa. Till when should we continue to accept that? Why should young leaders die to have a smooth transition or a peaceful election? Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
Philip from Australia.
Thank you very much. I'm just here to echo the very fair words from the delegate from Australia and France. Thank you very much for what you shared. About 2 years ago, I was in an institution where they were running elections for head of the Students' Union, and I was told by everybody I know, you should run, it's great. You look like a leader, you talk like a leader, you're fine. And so I did, and I got the job quite easily, actually. And once I was there, I realized that I wasn't proud of what I was doing. I wasn't happy because I didn't actually believe in the ideas that led to the position. And so I resigned after 6 months. Now I'm in a new institution in a new country, and I'm in a club that's 10 times smaller. We have 20 times less of a budget and a lot less influence. But it's an idea that I believe in, and it's an idea that I've carried and I've embodied, and I'm much happier, and I feel like a much more effective leader. So echoing your words, I would like to say to everyone here, you are not a leader because you fit the bill better than someone else. You are a leader because you believe and embody your ideas. Thank you very much.
Bill.
We have Kashyap from Kenya.
I'm Kashyap Goel from Kenya. Just like to give an example. In Kenya, democracy under the ridiculous alias of ministers of parliament decided to make an amendment to the financial bill to amend themselves or award themselves a send-off package of 2.1 billion Kenyan shillings for 220 members of parliament. But our Kenyan president, Honorable Mwai Kibaki, decided to cancel the bill or refute it. And from that, I'd like to say, it's like a piece of advice, that we can't please everyone as leaders. That's the downfall of democracy, that in the hurry to please everyone, we kind of change our ideals. So what I'd challenge everyone to do is to keep your stand, be the rock in the society, and don't be afraid to tread on a few stones to do what's right. Thank you.
Lord Hastings.
And here is Andy from Pittsburgh.
Hello. I just want to address a kind of a disconnection between corporate leadership and us day-to-day employees trying to kind of come to an understanding that corporate leaders like to promote their CSRs and their donations, but they don't really inspire day-to-day activism and volunteering in our communities. When we see a lot of the issues we've discussed, poverty, child unemployment, and just those kids not having these opportunities. So I think that what I'd like to see is, companies providing 1 day a month where employees are told to go and be active in their community and actually get a day off from work to go and volunteer in that way. So
nice
that's
idea.
my comment. And one more thing from the Kurdish delegation. Leadership is what happens when you're not there, and leaders are on their business, not in our business, from Repaz.
Thank you. Oscar.
Okay, this is a very important question that I just heard from Ajarat. It has to do with drugs. Let's hear from her.
Hello. So I was just wondering here, how many people here use heroin and cocaine? People in this room, guys. If we're gonna win the war on drugs, we need to stop using heroin and cocaine. So drop that joint tomorrow night, guys, okay? Drop it tomorrow night. Thank you.
President Uribe.
It is a pleasure to introduce Megan from Canada.
8% of Nobel Prizes have been awarded to women. Courage, leadership, strength make this woman an excellent Peace Prize nominee. Hashtag Malala.
Yeah. Very good. Carl.
This is Pierre from South Africa.
Yesterday, I met an amazing leader. Where is that young lady who stood up and spoke in public? Is she here? The girl here who spoke in public for the first time. What courage, what courage. Are you aware now that you can do anything? And then we had Emma on the stage here, and her courageous talk inspired, was it Rachel, to tell about her sickness. And then we had a young lady here who admitted for the first time that she had an illness. And we had a fantastic young man stand up and say, I'm gay, which suddenly all the speakers were gay. Just such courage. Having courage creates a space for others to be courageous. And now that's leadership. So thank you for your lead.
Great comment. Carol.
Harak from Kurdistan, a region of Iraq.
Delegate speakers and councillors, I think I need advice on this. Like, how could you raise awareness in a society where patronage networks who are paid by the government or paid by the ruling elites, they are very strong and they are everywhere. Like, they're in a way that I was very deeply disappointed when I found many well-educated people showing themselves in disguise that they want change, they want to raise awareness among young people. But later I found that they were paid by the ruling parties, by some people in the government, just to discover some statistics for them about the youth who want to make change, about youth like the people who are in this conference. So I appreciate if someone gives me advice or answer a question how to do that in such a society.
Maybe get a comment from one of the councillors when they're back on stage. Bill.
We have Marjan from the United States.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I am truly honored to have everybody here. It's just really exciting. It's my first time being a part of One Young World, and just listening to all the leadership discussions this morning are really, truly inspiring. It's just really exciting to see the energy in the room. So my question and comments to the delegates on stage and to the counselors is, what are some things that you can share with the young leaders here today to be able to energize and continue to empower in all these projects, because we know it's not easy in the world where there's a lot of global issues. What are some things that you can share that you've personally experienced to help continue to energize all the projects?
Great question. Lord Hastings.
Here is Cindy from Colombia.
Hi, hi people. Actually, my question goes to the ex-president Álvaro Uribe. You have said that in order to reach leaders and leadership in this world, we have to promote civil society participation. A good example for that is when we create NGOs. And Colombia has many NGOs. Some of them work in the human rights field, as we have been seeing yesterday and with the director of Human Rights Watch. So I was reading a little bit about it, and I wanted to ask you, how do you answer to these kind of statements and informs from these organizations that say that during your presidency in Colombia, Colombia had human rights violations? Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Oscar.
Yes, my name is Christian Bodo from Ghana. President Olive, you are head of state, and you've got a lot of qualities. You do great things. And I would like to ask, what one quality do you think defines you? What one quality do you think you yourself believe defines you and a leader needs to have? Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. President Uribe, would you like to introduce your next?
It is my pleasure to introduce Mohammed from Egypt.
Hello, everyone. Just I have two questions. The first one for Mr. Olive. How do you see the future cooperation between the leaders in Latin America and the Arabic country after Arab Spring? That's the first one. Second one for our colleagues here. Just I wanted to ask you a question tomorrow when you're flying back to home. Just why we were here and what is the benefit? Just only my answer is simple. My answer is I want to sit over there in this stage tomorrow to lead the next generation. So who will be with me? Thank you.
Carl. This is technically the last question from each microphone.
This is Loretto from South Africa.
So two things. First of all, the most amazing thing I've done this year is read a book by Robin Sharma, The Leader We Had No Title. Mind-blowing book. Look it up. And it really speaks about you don't need a title, you don't need a position, you don't need someone to put you up in a pedestal in order to do something amazing to touch other people's lives. And secondly, the one thing that he goes on about is tough times build great leaders. It's evident that we're in tough times, the market economy, etc. But the beautiful thing about it is it allows us to actually be in a position to be unbelievable leaders. Nelson Mandela took the most disruptive times and turned them into the most brilliant wins because of the state of the situation at the time. So the most amazing thing is the more you push towards your limits, the more your limits expand. So keep that in mind.
Great. Carol.
David, I've got the microphone, so I've got the power. So can I have two people, please? Because my next speaker is from the Congo, but the girl behind me is the only delegate here from Qatar, and she can answer that question. Is that all right?
If they're fast, yes.
Fast. First of all, then, Frank from Congo.
Thank you very much. I think I'd like first to make a difference between my country, because I'm from Congo, but not the Congo DRC, which is 60 million people, and which hosted recently the Francophonie Summit. I would like to tell to all those who hear that I come from a country which we got many obstacles to make things, because as we are young leaders, we there is not a good environment to express, to have a free expression and a good expression. That is why I appreciate what has been done in Senegal, where they have been dealing with the election. So in my country, we were the first NGO which made up a human center to help people to know more about their right and continue to do what is better. That is why I want to tell to all those who are facing the same situation in their country that it is possible to continue even if there is obstacle. Thank you very much.
Naima, you've got about 30 seconds to tell us from Qatar about women.
Hello, everybody. I'm one of the only delegates here from Qatar, and I'd like to answer the question or the comment that the girl gave from Jordan. I'm very proud to announce that women in the Middle East are one of the most active individuals in society, and now in the most recent years we have taken positions in all the top ministries, and women are silently and actively demanding their part in their countries. And if you would like to talk about women leadership in the Middle East, I'm more than happy to have a meeting during lunch. Thank you.
Bill.
We have Iran from Turkey.
Thank you very much. I just like to have some point of view from leadership development, and I have a kind of invitation for action for all of you. You know, we are all make mistakes when we are doing some things, and for these old days we are talking about just for our successes, but we have all mistakes. And I think I invite leadership and future leadership, we are, and maybe in the future when we are going to a leadership position, please share your mistakes, your failures and your stories to your delegates and team members, because you know it is the most important thing that add value to people development. Thank you very much.
Michael.
It's great to welcome Asma from Afghanistan.
Hi everybody. Since all the leader of tomorrow is here, I would like to ask everybody, because if anybody, I'm working with the kids who lost their parents during the suicide attacks, during the Taliban wars. So anybody, if they want to help and support, if you know any companies who would like to support and give fund to these kids, because the winter is coming and they are really in need of warm clothes and foods, please just introduce those to me and give their email address. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oscar.
Hi everyone, I rose to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the perspectives and views of others does not predicate or have any bearing on where you're going and your destiny. Who cares what people think about you? Who cares if they tell you that you can't do it? I rose to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that it's not about what people think about you. You must keep on keeping on. You must move forward. And because I come across a lot of the stereotypes and the sort of the racism, and people labeled me as a dumb coconut, but I obliterated those kind of stereotypes. I am here in Pittsburgh. I am representing Samoa and everyone here. So I'm interested to know whether the panelists did go through such oppression as well, and how did they combat it? Because I understand that we will come against hurdles like this. But I rose to tell you that big things are coming before you. You should be excited, ladies and gentlemen. You should be excited.
President Uribe.
I introduce Sharon from the United States.
Thank you. So in many of the countries that are represented here, we have very strong two-party systems, in which case that can sometimes offer a very limited option of leadership and governance. In the United States right now, a number of my peers are not voting in this election because they're very frustrated with the two parties and realize if they vote for the third party, it's a wasted vote. So my question for the counselors is, do you believe you should vote for the candidate you truly support, even though that could be a wasted vote? And how would you recommend breaking down the two-party system in order to create a truly authentic democratic government where all forms of leadership are able to be presented?
Good question. Carl.
Thank you. I'm Samson from
Actually, what we'll do, we can take all three if you're all really fast. So you've got to be really fast.
I'm Samson from Kenya, and my question is, why should we allow mostly in African countries that the process of election to be like fraud, and then a leader sticks into leadership then we wait until people die for UN maybe to intervene. I was suggesting, if possible, there should be a set code of conduct whereby a leader should observe. In case, I'm not saying that I'm not intending to compromise the sovereignty of a nation, but I'm saying the best part is if we can have code of conduct to govern elections, to govern those who should vie for these elective posts, that would enhance democracy rather than waiting until people like dictators and autocrats take on leadership.
Good
That's
point.
when we start fighting.
So move on. Next question quickly or comment.
Actually, I want to say, you young one in the world, that you are not one who is keeping the world from collapse, but you are the one who are rolling the world to the better future. My call for you, for us ambassadors, is to educate with all your opportunities, action, and with your strong passion, the social-oriented mentality and generation of social-minded human beings. Actually, my question is gonna be about corporate social responsibility and about the legislation in your countries. I address to ex-president of the Colombia. I want to hear what was done by you and what would you like to recommend to us about force and pressure for legislation of corporate social responsibility in our countries.
Great, thank you. Next question.
Hi everyone, I'm Rima from Sierra Leone. I just want to urge everyone here, as you go on to improve the leadership and governance in your countries, don't forget education, because I think it's the main problem that is causing bad governance and leadership, especially in developing nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, do you have anyone?
I'm here.
Okay, Bill, you go.
Two quick ones, Michael.
My name is Wycliffe Otieno, and I believe that as youth, I'm from Kenya, and I just wanted to say that I think as leaders, as young and emerging leaders, we also need mentorship from established leaders so that we can be strong and we can be able to push forward our agendas in our countries. Thank you.
Carol, do you want to come back up on stage? Bill, very quickly.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Nagihan, I'm from Turkey. I want to make a comment about women in leadership. I think women are great heroes because they take care of their family, they need to keep their house clean, they need to work and make money, and they are the ones that raise the new generation. But a woman sometimes is afraid to have a child because she doesn't want to lose her job. So I want business runners to give more attention to this and give more free space to ladies because they have many responsibilities for their community.
Thank you. Great comment.
In the U.S. I have a question with real implications to my company, Alcoa Incorporated, as well as all of society. I would like to know what the counselors think we can do as a society to convince our talented young people to pursue the highly skilled technical labor workforce that we as a society are desperately running short of. If we have lots of engineers but no one to implement their projects, we as a society will fall short. Thank you.
Great comment. Thanks, Bill. And then President Uribe, just take those two people very quickly, and if the others can come back up on stage.
Melissa from New York.
I just wanted to say thank you for this session and the earlier session. It's really helped me to realize what my personal action coming out of One Young World will be. Working at a large organization, I thought that was a harder way to make a difference, and I think now it's very clear that I can make a large contribution and leverage the scale and size to make an even bigger impact instead of going at it alone. So I just want to challenge those other delegates from large corporations to also think about how they can leverage their companies.
Excellent. And finally,
Do you guys pick one issue to comment or respond to? There's one
Here we
issue
go.
to comment or respond to.
Yes.
Sorry.
Last one.
Luis from Mexico.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to tell you that it's a wonderful experience to be here with wonderful persons from all around the world, to be sharing our knowledge and stories. And I think leadership is a very important aspect in life. I'm aware that leadership might not change the world, but I'm sure that leadership can change the person who will change the world.
Hear, hear.
Will change the world.
President Uribe, would you like to come back up on stage? And then what we'll ask each of the, I mean, there are so many questions there, we can't answer all of them, but we'll ask each of the councillors to pick one of the questions that they want to respond to or a comment they want to make. So Lord Hastings, do you want to kick off? We'll go in order. Oh, sorry, Carol.
pick up on comments actually that Alexander had made in his brilliant speech, because he listed towards the end a whole lot of now current and recent leaders who started their journey of leadership when they were 21, 22, 25, 26. And what he was really saying to everybody here is begin the journey now. And the thing about all of the characters, Alexander, you mentioned, and the emphasis that's come from the hall, is there is a journey of somewhere between 15 to 25 years before realization. And impatience amongst young leaders, which doesn't persist with the journey, will never actually be leadership. It's just irrational bad behavior. So if you want to be a leader, stick with the long fight. Be patient and wait. See the delivery. It's worth the long term, but you won't get it overnight.
Yeah. It's a marathon, and somebody may well even take you out of the marathon, as we saw this morning. President
What can I do with the many questions I received?
You can tweet a reply. Oscar will help you tweet a reply if you're not on Twitter.
Ecuador. I have written a book. Its name is No Lost Cause. And all the funds I will receive from this book is to sponsor a new non-profit university. In this book I refer to my experience with Ecuador. Of course, I am concerned because the president of Ecuador, for instance, in the last years, he has expropriated media. Now violence is growing in Ecuador. And even though the economy is booming, it is a lot of distrust for investors. My recommendation is that youngsters fight through the media and through the social networks to implement in Ecuador the defense of freedoms. One lady spoke about the necessity of dropping using illicit drugs. I applaud her. NGOs. NGOs is not the only way for people participation. For instance, during our 8 years, every Saturday, we had community meetings to listen to the people. Many of them were not members of NGOs. There are NGOs doing a good job, but there are others with enormous political biases. Yeah. What is inconvenient? Human rights. Of course, in Colombia, with too many years of violence, we have had violation in human rights. What my government did was to put all the problems on the table and to impose sanctions to those responsible. The gentleman from Ghana has asked me to define myself with one single word in politics. I won't say about 10 words, but I will say to him about 2 words: persistence and love. You need to persist before difficulties, and you have to undertake the more difficult tasks with love. With love, you are able to overcome difficulties. The Arab Spring and Latin American countries. I haven't spoken.
He's good.
Because I wrote down all the questions. I came to Harvard when I was old because my father was killed and I couldn't come when I was young. And I pay all the attention to my professors at Harvard. And I remember my professor at communications. Keep in mind this, my friends. He said to us, leaders need to dedicate 90% of the time to communications, but 90% of this 90 to listening. Therefore, from that day on, I want to write down all the questions. For me, not to skip one single question.
Thank you.
Arab Spring. I have never spoken about the Arab Spring. My hope from Latin America is that the Arab Spring be positive for the respect of fundamental freedoms. I want to speak fully about the rule of law, but I am speaking for the respect of fundamental freedoms. The Arab Spring in Latin America. In Latin America, we need a new Arab Spring to defeat the dictatorship in Cuba and to preserve the rule of law in countries such as Venezuela when the rule of law is being broken. Vocational training, the last question coming to me. Colombia, with one legislation of social responsibility, levies a tax on the payroll that has to be paid by employers. They have to be 2 percentage points of the payroll to funding one vocational training institution. Its name is National Service for Apprenticeship. Now, this organization trains almost 10 million Colombians per year, and they meet training with the necessities of the economy.
Thank you. Carl.
All right, I like your Twitter idea too, so if I don't get to everything, just tweet at me. So there were a couple of questions about government, why it's important to vote, things about third-party candidates. To sort of put a little bit of that in context, when I was working at the White House, we had the chance to work with people from the far left to the far right. And one of the things I would just think about is just because you don't get 100% of what you want doesn't mean that something's a failure. And when you're looking at candidates, particularly in a two-party system, you don't have to agree with 100% of what any of them say either. But if you've got a third-party candidate, and if those parties are not necessarily what we call viable candidacies, meaning, there was an allusion to, does that mean you're throwing your vote away? Look at whether you think that that's viable. And I'll say that in the context of the top 5 issues for young evangelical conservative Christians in this country in 2008 were jobs in the economy, access to education, poverty, climate change, and Darfur. The top 5 issues for young progressives in the United States in 2008 were jobs in the economy, access to education, poverty, climate change, and Darfur. If you turn on the TV, it sounds like young people who are Republicans have nothing in common with young people who are Democrats, and that's just not true. The fact is they have a lot more in common than we're even giving ourselves credit for, and the choice is between 2 viable candidates. So I would suggest to you that do your research, find out who you have the most in common with, find out what your issues are, and decide which one of those 2 gentlemen is going to move the country forward for the things that you want.
Terrific comment, great. Phil.
I think this whole issue of making sure that your leadership also reflects values is very important. The young woman who got up and talked about the Taliban, who certainly represent themselves as leaders, but I would question the value proposition that shoots people in the head because they want to read. That doesn't work for me. And I think as leaders, you have a responsibility to align yourself with the best aspirations of the human condition, not the worst. And 2, as a person who's been around this thing for a long time, how do you sustain your hope over a long period of time when the mission that you've taken on is impossible? You do it because you reach out to the other people in this audience who are like-minded souls, and you build relationships of friendship and durability, because not one of you can sustain this journey by yourselves, nor are you required to do that to lead. What you're required to do is to somehow sustain your hope and your vision over a long period of time, which means that you must, by definition, connect yourself with a community. I couldn't think of a better community to start with than the one that's sitting in this building right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Oscar.
One question from my friend who was there was questioning, what is the one quality of a leader? There are many, and he was asking President Uribe as a head of state if maybe he could recognize one trait that defines all the leaders that are good leaders. And I heard the answer before, and actually it came from the panel of ambassadors: compassion. I was thinking about it like, let me scan my mind and let me identify what is the one quality. Is this compassion? Because a compassionate leader is also a compassionate person, and a compassionate person wouldn't allow all these injustices that happens in our countries. From day first on office, he will try to correct this and won't rest until the day of his death. Because once you commit to something, you commit for life. That's also the good quality of a leader. And I have a recommendations for all of you. I heard about talents, and I heard about creativity, and I heard about how amazing you are. I like to coin a sentence. One young world ambassador, awesomeness. I've heard this on Twitter, and that's what you are. But we have a situation. You're all escaping from your own countries. I can understand the situation from Venezuela. They have the right to go outside while the dictator is gone. But for others, it's a tragedy. For Colombia, it's a tragedy when we have so many talent inside our country that we're not keeping, and is flying away, and they're not coming back. We need those people to come back to our countries and fight and stay and liberate themselves from the dictatorships.
Carol.
First of all, just to answer the question on voting, however tactical voting can help, I personally always have to vote for the person that I want to be in power, and that's the way I do it. From the Qatar question, I think we've had a bit of a response. My answer would go back to that lady about having conversations with people all the time, and the people you know can make a difference. I think what Marvin said about the round table, if there's one thought I can leave with you now, is to say, do encourage you to get together, perhaps once a week, only for 4 weeks, try it, to invite people just to have a glass of wine with you, have a cup of water with you, a cup of tea with you, but say for the next 4 weeks, on a certain day, say a Monday, at a certain time, an hour and a half is all you need, 6 to 7:30, and on the same day of the week, same place, same time, to come and see you, that you will be there, even if you're sitting on your own, as you go about your business, you meet people in the week, you can just say, come along. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to have conversations with people from very different places. Just try it for about 4 weeks. Inexpensive, just a cup of tea and coffee, and just talk to people.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this pledge now. Don't forget you're voting to make a commitment to act, and the pledge reads, we, the One Young World Ambassadors, pledge to take personal responsibility for the development of other young leaders in the organizations in which we play a part, because it takes a lot of you. Let's go to the vote.
Magic clock, please.
Whoa! Whoa! What was that?
Gone past 90.
Wow! Well done, councillors and delegates. Well done. Fabulous. Well done, guys.
Okay. So